Hi there, it's James Art here. Hope you're doing really well. So there are so many plugins out there and lots of them cost a lot of money, but you know what? Some of them don't cost anything. I'm going to show you a selection of 10 plugins which will cost you a grand total of zero, nothing, nada, zilch. They're completely free. Let's go and have a look. If you like this video and want to stay in touch with upcoming videos, then hit the subscribe and hit the notification bell and you'll get notified when they appear. Also, I've got some free stuff to give to you. If you sign up to the mailing list, I'll send you an EQ cheat sheet as well as some one-shot drum hits that you can use in your mixes. Okay, let's have a look at the first one. Okay, first up is one by Tokyo Dawn. It's called TDR Nova and it's a parallel dynamic EQ. Now, yes, you can just use it as an EQ and it does a wonderful job. It's got loads of different settings and lots of functionality, and also if you engage the threshold here, it becomes a parallel dynamic EQ, which means it's only going to be affecting certain frequencies when it actually crosses over that threshold. Really useful for so many different applications. I won't run through them now, but it can be as simple as just de-essing or using it to mix two instruments and try and push one of them out the way when it hits, like you might do with a kick and a bass drum, for example. It's really comprehensive, and actually this version of the plugin is much more efficient than it used to be. It used to be quite CPU hungry. Now it's not so bad, so go and check it out. Next up is one called Supermassive by VALHALLA. Now VALHALLA are already quite cheap plugins anyway. They're absolutely phenomenal for the money, but this one is absolutely free. It's essentially a reverb, but it's got various different tricks in there with delay and modulation, so you can get some really interesting effects. Now I'm not going to show you how all of these plugins sound because we're just going to be there all day, but I'm just going to give you a little bit of a taster of this one because it's so much fun, and we'll just try it on a vocal, and I'm literally just going to cycle through some of the presets just to give you a bit of an idea.
Fear took me by the hand and showed me to a promised land. I don't need to question a life already planned. Safe in the arms of a lightless love, I will trust the one above. Oh yeah. Fear took me by the hand and showed me to a promised land. I don't need to question a life already planned. Safe in the arms of a lightless love.
Fantastic. Okay, that's just a little taster of it, but it does so much, so go and have a look. Next up is Multiplier by ACON Digital. Now, I've done a whole video on this, which is talking about using it to get the Andy Wallace bass effect, which is essentially using it as a replacement for Roland Dimension D. But it does lots of different things. And what I'll do, if I can figure it out, I'll put a little link to that video right now, or it might be at the end of the video. Depends whether I can figure out how to do it. But essentially, this is a chorus plugin, but it's a little bit more than a chorus because you can also add some other features which essentially turn it into a little bit of a doubler. So I'm just going to cycle through just a little bit.
Fear took me by the hand and showed me to a promised land. I don't need to question a life already planned. Safe in the arms of a lightless love, I will trust the one above. Oh yeah.
That's just a little bit of a taster, but there's so much it can do, so go and check it out. Next up, this one is a two-parter actually. So it's by Fuse Audio Labs. They do some really fantastic plugins. This particular one is an emulation of a Diode Clipper guitar pedal, which is essentially a Big Muff. We all know the Big Muff. So let's just have a little listen to it. This is what it sounded like before. You engage that. Beautiful. And in addition to that, I'm going to show you something else which is totally free by the exact same company. This time it's an EQ. Now it's an emulation of a Roger Schultz EQ, and there's various different settings on here you can use, but just as an example of what I use it for is on guitars. So since we're on guitars, let's have a little listen to that. Just a little nudge at around 2K gives a very similar sound to what you'd get with the Helios EQ. Let's check it out. And that's just using one frequency at the moment, but it's got a couple of little options on here. The high end lift is particularly nice, and also just turning everything off and just adding some drive can be really nice, especially if you just stick it on your master bus. Okay, so that was actually 2 plugins there, but we'll just call it one because it's the same company. Next up is one by the wonderful SLATE Audio. This one is called Revival, and basically they call it a sonic enhancer, and they say that essentially it makes things sound better. And you know what? It does, even if you're just using just a tiny little amount here and there, a little sprinkle, a little bit of magic dust, it really does add something. You can use it to add air to vocals, to add fatness to drums. These are both things that they say on the website, by the way. But you can use it for loads of different things. I mean, I use it on vocals quite a lot because it gives it just a little bit of extra spice, maybe. We'll have a little listen just to this solo vocal just for a minute.
But I'll be singing on Sunday while my shadow. But I'll be singing on Sunday while my shadow.
Beautiful. Try it on lots of different things. Try it on guitars, try it on drums, whatever you want to do. It's a really cool plugin and really simple to use. You just got 2 knobs, shimmer and thickness. You get the idea of what it's doing. Either a little bit of bottom end or a little bit of shine for the top. Either way, really cool plugin. Go and check it out. Next up, something by TSE Audio called BOG, which is a bass overdrive. It's basically an emulation of the good old Sansamp. I've used the pedal version of this so many times on bass, and you know what? This sounds really good. It doesn't sound so dissimilar to the real thing. So if you can't get hold of one, or if you just want to add a little bit of extra flavor, this is really worth a look. Let's have just a little listen to it really quickly. You get a general idea. It sounds like a Sansamp. And when it's free, you can't really complain at that. Okay, next up, some free software instruments. This one is by Spitfire Audio. And I'd like to give a special shout out to a good friend of mine, Sean Kennedy, because although I heard about 1 or 2 of these before, he basically drew my attention to the fact that they've got a whole heap of absolutely free software instruments, and they're really cool. So thanks very much, Sean. I'm going to leave the details of what he does in the description below, because he is a fantastic producer, fantastic musician, and just an all-round blinder of a bloke. Go and check out his stuff. So yeah, just to give you a little bit of an idea of what it's got, once you download it, you've got a bit of a selection of interesting sounds. Now, when I say interesting, they're not all of your bog standard sounds. They're a little bit more quirky. So we've got a piano, but it's called soft piano. Different type of piano. But look, over here we've got, I'm not going to go through everything, but in the cello section, we've got something a little bit different for you. Chatter, evil, slide up, tension, tremmy, wobbly. Okay, let's have a look at chatter, for example. Madness, total madness, but totally usable, and you know that you can use it somewhere. You've got some drums in here, and they're a little bit different, they're a little bit more lo-fi. Let's check it out. Great sounding drums though, totally usable somewhere. And what else? Okay, so here we've also, let's have a look at the experimental section. We've got dolphin whistle, drone, gentle, like all of these things are just a little bit different. Talking whales. We're gonna have to hear what they've got to say. Guess that's what whales sound like. Dolphin whistle, come on. Just makes me want to do weird stuff. But anyway, there's a whole selection there. And as I said, it's totally free. So go and check it out. There's so much there to be had. Okay, next up, some more software instruments. If you want something that's a little bit more standard, I guess, Native Instruments do a fantastic bundle called Complete Start. Now, essentially, it's a selection of a bunch of their instruments. So you've got a whole load of Kontakt libraries in there, and also you've got some Reactor things as well. So, for example, the Kontakt factory selection, you've got a little bit of a stripped down version of what you'd usually get with a full thing, but not that limited. In here, band, we've got all of your favorites in there. You've got a few different synths. Got some beats and so on, and then also you've got a couple of really cool synths in here. I'm not going to go through each thing because there's quite a lot in here. I'm just giving you a little bit of an overview of all the different options that you've actually got. So you've got some normal synths there, but also you've got a few weird things as well, because we all always like the weird stuff. Let's just listen to that. Weird, love it. Music box, great. Not my best work, but you can have that for free if you like. And if we actually just look at the website, you'll get a bit of an idea of all these things that you get. So this is all of the Reactor stuff. Moving down, these are the instruments I was just telling you about. You get a bit of an idea there. Some free effects as well, including a version of Guitar Rig, which is really handy to have. And of course, you get the players as well, Kontakt and Reactor. So handy to have if you're going to be buying some third-party instruments as well. Now, that is really quite a lot that they're giving you all for free. Okay, next up is a little bit of a three-parter, so I'm being a little bit sneaky here, but it's all by the same company. It's by Clang Helm. They give away 3 different plugins. So you've got a compressor, you've got a saturation stroke distortion unit, and then lastly, something that they call a character compressor. So essentially, it's a compressor, but with various different presets in there, which just kind of change the sound of it. Now, they're all absolutely fantastic and totally worth a listen to, but one of them that I highly recommend is actually this compressor, the MJUCjnr, which is basically a stripped down version of one of their main compressors. So go and, if you really like this, go and check that out. Essentially, it's a variable tube compressor, something very similar to like a Fairchild or a Manley, but you can use it on so many different things. So I'd recommend it on drums, I'd recommend it on vocals, or even just using it in parallel to pretty much anything. It's a really handy compressor. As I say, you can get the full version if you want, which has way more features, but already this is a really fantastic unit, so go and check it out. And then, as I said, you've also got the saturation module as well as the other compressor. I'd highly recommend the saturation because you've got a whole bunch of different options on there and you can get some really interesting results. Even if you want to use it subtly, you can, but the different flavors you can get with this are really quite comprehensive. Now, lastly, but by no means least, and by the way, none of these have been in any particular order, it's just a tasty selection, but this one is perhaps more of a wild card. This one's by IZOTOPE and it's called Vinyl 2. Now, essentially, you get the idea. It's emulating the sound of a vinyl player. It can be really cool for just some very subtle effects, or you can go really crazy with it. So let's just have a little bit of a listen. I've just set it up on my master bus, so it's affecting the whole mix, and I'll give you an idea of what it's actually going to start to do. And you can adjust the year as well, which essentially just increases the degradation of the sound. Let's try it with the actual song playing.
Took me by the hand and showed me to a promised land. I don't need to question a life already planned. Safe in the arms of a lightless love, I will trust the one above. Oh, yeah. Took me by the hand and showed me to a promised land. I don't need to question a life already planned.
So you can definitely use it for some really cool effects. And of course, you've got the old favorite.
Took me by the hand.
Which I'm sure loads of people will use at the end of a song. It's been done, but it will be done again and again. Either way, it's a really fun plugin and definitely worth having a look at. So that's my selection of 10 plugins that you can go and download right now for free. In the description below, I'll leave links to all of the companies so you can go and check them all out. Also, if there are a whole bunch that you find yourself that you think are worth looking at, leave a comment below and then perhaps I can do another video on more free plugins so we can essentially just share the wealth. Or, well, actually it's free, so we're not really sharing anything, but we're just sharing the knowledge. Hope that's been useful. Hope you found a few things in there that you didn't actually know were out there. And as I said, for free. Amazing. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.